Pokemon fan? No thank you. I'm a Pokemon hater and I want to see them suffer. In this video, we're going to do this, except we're going to take it so much further. Alright, for real though, how many of these condition markers can you have on one Pokemon? They don't have to be just the negative ones, I just want to see how much of a fucking wall of text we can build on one Pokemon on the Showdown client. Let's start with the easy ones. All stats reduced... I don't think that's how that word is spelled. All stats reduced or increased at least once. Now we need to choose which of the 5 non-volatile status conditions we should use. Bulbapedia defines a non-volatile status condition as: this section is incomplete. Please feel free to edit this section to add missing information and complete it. Fascinating. This gives us a slight fork in the road, since if we choose sleep, then we can give our victim the nightmare status, but not the drowsy status. Since we'll need our target to use their own moves, which sleep might get in the way of, let's opt for poisoned instead. Now we have the basics out of the way, let's start breaking down the rest of the statuses, aka volatile status conditions, into 3 different categories: self-inflicted, permanent, and temporary. Starting with self-inflicted, here are all the possible conditions a Pokemon can gain by using a move that only affects itself. They are low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, and megalomania. This is the wrong list. They are Aqua Ring, Ingrain, Focus Energy, Power Trick, Mimic, Stockpile, Charge, Imprison, Transform, and literally one of dozens of statuses you get by locking into a move, such as Protect or Recharge from Hyper Beam. To make our lives as easy as possible, we're going to use Bide. Those of you capable of counting higher than 3 will notice this is more than 4 moves, and Pokemon only actually get 4 to work with. Luckily, several of these can be passed on to a second Pokemon using Baton Pass. The plan will be to use 3 of these moves, use Baton Pass, and then our Baton Pass target can use 3 more moves before using Transform, learning the final 3 moves we need to use. If that sounds confusing on paper, don't worry, it's so much worse in practice. Now that we're done with all the self-inflicted conditions, it's time to move on to the permanent conditions. The setup for these ones is actually pretty simple, since all we need to do is cycle through Pokemon until everyone has had a chance to empty their clip full of debuffs and conditions into our target. I feel like our target needs a name that's more evocative than just target, so we're just going to call him Victim from now on. Once everyone has had a go and Victim is inflicted with all the permanent status conditions in the game, he should be the following: Cursed, Tormented, Infatuated, Salt Cured, Leech Seeded, Smacked Down, Miracle Eyed, Tar Shotted, and Ghost Type from Trick or Treat. Sounds like a real typical night in the pub, am I right? Haha. I have not left the house in weeks. For an additional status tag, we're going to make Victim hold an air balloon, and for comedy value, we're going to set up Stealth Rocks, Sticky Web, 3 layers of spikes, and 2 layers of toxic spikes. Something you're definitely not wondering, but should be, is why aren't we using Forest's Curse as well as Trick or Treat to add the Grass type to Victim? And the reason is, being Grass type gives you an immunity to all powder moves, and we need to use one of those later for an additional status. One more really simple, quick thing to bring up in this section: Smackdown only shows up as a status if the Pokemon is airborne. In order to get Victim airborne, we're first going to need to use Telekinesis, which does show up as a status as well. Using Smackdown on a Telekinesis target overwrites the Telekinesis condition with Smackdown. Telekinesis only lasts 4 turns, while Smackdown lasts forever, so for us it's definitely the better option. Alright, I've been dreading this part, but it's time to talk about temporary statuses. These can last anywhere between 5 turns and a single turn, and frankly, they're a fucking nightmare. Let's go through all the temporary statuses and how long they last, in descending order. Infested, Confused, Perishing, Imposter Syndrome, Megalomania. This is the wrong goddamn list again. Heal Blocked, which lasts 5 turns. Embargoed, 5 turns. Infested, 4 to 5 turns. Disabled, 4 turns. Confused, which can last anywhere between 1 and 4 turns. Taunted, 3 turns. Encored, 3 turns. Perishing, 3 turns. Throat Chopped, 2 turns. Drowsy, 2 turns. Helping Handed, 1 turn. And finally, Powdered, which lasts 1 turn. Moves like Infestation, Fire Spin, and Sand Tomb don't stack, unfortunately, so we just have to pick one, and I picked Infestation because it sounds the ickiest. If you're like insanely observant and knowledgeable, you'll have copped that if we want to give the victim the drowsy status, we'd have to use Yawn on him before using Toxic, since it fails otherwise, giving us only 2 turns to hit both of them in a very specific order. Unfortunately, we simply do not have the time to inflict Toxic during the final 2 turns after a Yawn, since the order of operations is so tight to get the rest of the statuses loaded up on victim, so we're going to give up on the drowsy condition. So, based on all these conditions, we now have to figure out which Pokemon can use all the moves we've just mentioned and build 2 teams to make the dream happen. Ideally, I want to use as few Smeargles as possible, but since it can learn any move in the game, it's pretty much perfect for what we need here. So, without further ado, drumroll please, our team. That's right, we're only using 8 whole Smeargles. Honestly, more than I wanted, but less than I expected. Okay, let's start breaking down the setup. Real quick, if you made it this far in the video, consider subscribing. My goal for 2023 is to make it to 2,000 subscribers, and we're really close. I promise it might not seem like a big deal to you, but to me, every new sub is a victory in my books and helps keep me going. Thanks for watching so far, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. To begin, Gliscor terrestrializes into the Ghost type and uses Stealth Rock. I'll explain why later, for now, don't worry about it. Spidops starts setting up hazards while Passer the Smeargle starts loading up on Aqua Ring, Focus Energy, and Power Trick. The other Pokemon shuffle around and do nothing important until we bring out Sigilif, which uses Telekinesis on Passer just before it uses Baton Pass to pass those 4 conditions onto the star of the show, Victim, who is immediately Toxic on entry. Debuffer the Smeargle uses Smackdown on Victim, who uses Ingrain. Debuffer is swapped out for Contingency the Smeargle, while Victim uses Mimic. Spidops, having finished setting up every hazard, switches out to Permanence the Smeargle, as Contingency uses Miracle Eye and Victim uses Imprison. And now we're ready to use Transform. Contingency swaps out to Transform Target the Smeargle, who is then targeted by Victim's Transform. Sigilif uses Skill Swap to give Victim Magic Guard, protecting him from any damage over time effects. Permanence hits Victim with a Torment, and then Sigilif is swapped out for Gliscor, and Transform Target is swapped out for Debuffer. Victim uses Stockpile as Permanence uses Sweet Scent. We're nearly finished covering Victim's entire sprite with condition markers now, as Gliscor lands a Sand Attack, Victim uses Charge, Debuffer uses Tar Shot, and Permanence uses Leech Seed. Finally making use of that terrestrialization, Gliscor places a Curse on Victim as Debuffer hits a Noble Roar. Victim stockpiles again, and Permanence uses Salt Cure. Finished with Gliscor and Permanence completely now, they're swapped out for Behem and Temporaries the Smeargle, as Victim uses Charge again to waste a turn. Debuffer uses Trick or Treat, and now we're finished with all of the permanent statuses. Getting ready to load up all the temporary conditions at once, Contingency is swapped in as the other 3 Pokemon all waste their turn. This is where things get tricky, and order of operations becomes really important. Okay, here we go. Contingency uses Embargo and Behem uses Heal Block. Contingency is swapped out for Traitor as Temporaries uses Infestation and Victim uses Perish Song. Temporaries uses Taunt, Behem uses Swagger, and Traitor uses Throat Chop as the Perish count falls to 2. Victim uses Bide, Temporaries uses Attract, Behem uses Trick, and Traitor uses Encore as we enter the final turn. Finally, Traitor uses Helping Hand, Temporaries uses Powder, and Behem uses Disable. All of these, for just a second, gives us a whopping 39 status and condition markers. Thanks for watching. If you think you can do better, give it a try and link a Showdown replay in the comments. I missed out on Drowsy, and Throat Chop actually wore off the turn beforehand, and you could also get a marker off abilities like Flash Fire if you can figure out how to not die without Magic Guard. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.